The courtroom wasn't ready. The fans weren't ready. And trust me, you aren't ready. Because what just went down between Stevie J, Bambi, and Lil Scrappy is so explosive, so unthinkable, that it makes every past love and hip-hop scandal look like child's play. Picture this: dead silence in court. Judge poised with the gavel when Stevie J stands up, smirks, and plugs in a flash drive. Seconds later, Bambi's voice crackles through the speakers. A jail call, raw, uncut, undeniable. I used him. He weak. I needed out. Those words detonated like bombs. Scrappy shot up from his seat, veins bulging, voice shaking. She lied to me for years in my house. The judge lost control. Mama D screamed from the gallery. Cameras caught every tear, every gasp, every betrayal. This wasn't just court. This was a war zone. And here's the kicker. This wasn't some random leak. Stevie didn't stumble onto these tapes. He walked in with receipts planned, printed, prepared to scorch earth. But why? Why did Stevie J, of all people, decide to flip the entire courtroom upside down? And how deep does Bambi's betrayal really go? Was Scrappy just a pawn in her bigger game? And if that's true, then what the hell does Stevie really want out of this? Get ready, because the betrayals, the leaks, the meltdowns, the backstabbing, the federal-level chaos you're about to hear. It will change everything you thought you knew. The gavel cracked like thunder, but it couldn't drown out what had just been heard. I used him. He weak. I needed out. Bambi's voice echoing through the courtroom speakers. Didn't sound like the calm, polished Instagram influencer fans knew. It was raw, stripped, bare, and cruel. The words cut Lil Scrappy deeper than any diss track ever could. He lurched to his feet, face crimson, fists balled tight, screaming, "She lied to me for years in my own house." The judge shouted for order. Deputies rushed forward. Mama D shrieked like the matriarch of a Sunday revival. And Stevie J. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded, smirking like he'd just released the hottest mixtape of the year. How did we get here? It started with whispers. Rumors that Bambi, who had been juggling legal heat for months, was deeper in trouble than anyone realized. Fraud charges, shady LLCs, fake skincare lines. She brushed it all off with Bible verse captions and healing journey posts. But the streets had a different story, and the streets were never wrong. Because when Bambi got booked, she wasn't quiet. She was talking. Talking on those jail calls, thinking nobody on the outside would ever hear them. She was wrong. Stevie J, her old friend, her chaos partner, somehow had the tapes. And he didn't keep them hidden. He weaponized them in open court. The first call was bad enough. But Stevie wasn't done. He pulled up a PowerPoint presentation, full-color receipts stacked thicker than a mixtape anthology. "Your Honor," Stevie said with a grin that oozed menace, "this isn't gossip. This is evidence." And then he pressed play again. A new clip filled the room. "If I had to fake it with Scrappy to build my brand, so what? I'm a survivor." Bambi's voice dripped with cold calculation. Scrappy gasped, hands on his knees, shaking his head. Mama D leaped to her feet, pointing at Bambi. "I told y'all she was evil." "I've been said IT." The courtroom dissolved into chaos. Outside, Twitter went into flames. Hashtags erupted. Hashtag free Scrappy. Hashtag Bambi exposed. Hashtag Stevie got the tapes. Clips of the audio spread faster than wildfire. TikTokers reenacting the courtroom scene. Fans breaking down every syllable of Bambi's voice. One viral tweet read, "This ain't love and hip-hop. This love and hell." But here's what nobody could figure out. How did Stevie J even get these calls? Jail recordings don't just fall into your lap. One insider whispered that Stevie had a plug in the jail's security system, a guard who'd been promised money and favors. Another said Bambi herself slipped and called Stevie directly, forgetting all inmate calls are recorded. However it happened, Stevie didn't just stumble onto dirt, he curated it. He was out for blood. Scrappy couldn't take it. In open court, he shouted, That's what you really thought of me? After everything I gave you?" The judge slammed the gavel so hard it sounded like glass breaking. Deputies rushed to keep Scrappy back as he tried to approach Bambi's table. She sat, frozen, wide-eyed, her lawyer whispering frantically in her ear. Stevie chuckled under his breath. The villain in the center of a reality show turned real-life battlefield, and then came the twist. Stevie didn't just have 1 or 2 recordings. He had a whole folder. He clicked on a file labeled Z, a late-night call. Bambi's voice again. "Scrappy gonna fold." He emotional. "As long as Mama D don't get involved, we good." The camera panned to Mama D, sitting there like stone, her face an unshakable mask. She pulled out her phone, snapped a selfie, and within minutes, Instagram lit up. Her caption, "Been quiet too long. Time to drag demons to the light." Receipts ready, fans lost their minds. Mama D wasn't just a spectator anymore, she was stepping into the war with her own arsenal, almost immediately. Anonymous DMs started leaking online. Former assistants, old hairstylists, ex-castmates, all claiming they had dirt on Bambi. One voice note said, "She'd been messing with Stevie since 2022. Scrappy found out once, but stayed for the cameras." Another text screenshot read, "She told us straight up she only married Scrappy for brand alignment. Said his name boosted her skincare line." The internet spiraled. Meanwhile, inside the courtroom, Stevie J wasn't finished. He pulled up a photo, grainy but clear enough, of him and Bambi stepping out of a hotel elevator. Timestamped just 2 days before she got booked. Gasps filled the air. Scrappy's jaw clenched so hard it looked like it might break. The night before it all fell apart, Stevie muttered, "Tell me that was business." The judge tried desperately to regain control, but the case was no longer just about divorce or custody. This was betrayal, fraud, and now conspiracy. Bambi's lawyer demanded the audio be struck from the record, calling it emotionally manipulative and tampered. The judge stared coldly. "Your client chose her words. The truth isn't always pretty." Scrappy's voice cracked as he spoke. "You ruined my name, my family, my peace. You made me a meme." Tears welled up in his eyes, his whole body shaking as he looked straight at the woman he thought was his partner. Bambi turned her face away, a single tear sliding down her cheek. But whether it was guilt or strategy, no one could tell. Stevie leaned forward, eyes locked on Scrappy. "Don't blame me," he said, voice low but audible. "She wrote the script." And then, just when everyone thought it couldn't get darker, Stevie pressed play one last time. A voicemail. Bambi's voice again, but this time to someone saved in her contacts as V. Her words were ice cold. "Once this divorce goes through, I'll be free. Scrappy's still got money coming in. I just gotta hold out until next season drops. Then, poof, I'm gone." The room froze. Who was V? Twitter lit up with theories. Some said it was a VH1 executive. Others swore it was another cast member. Erica Mina's name flew around like wildfire. The speculation alone was enough to break the internet. Scrappy covered his face, his entire body trembling. Mama D muttered under her breath, "Lord, take the wheel." But she was already texting someone furiously by now. This wasn't a divorce case anymore. It was a betrayal trial. Stevie J had transformed the courtroom into a theater of war, and the entire world was watching. The hashtags climbed higher, fan edits set to dramatic music hit TikTok, and celebrities chimed in. Safari tweeted, "Damn, I thought my drama was wild. Y'all, different." Even Charlamagne thawed God roasted it on The Breakfast Club. Stevie playing chess while Scrappy playing Uno without the draw for South. The judge slammed the gavel once more. We are in recess. But nobody moved. Everyone knew this wasn't over. The next hearing was set, but whispers already circulated. Stevie J wasn't done. He had more files, more calls, more receipts locked away. And if the rumors were true, the next set of leaks could turn this messy divorce into a federal case. As the courtroom emptied, Scrappy left in silence, hoodie pulled tight, shades hiding his swollen eyes. Mama D was on Instagram Live before she even hit the parking lot, promising, "Y'all think y'all seen something? Baby, I got voicemails. Y'all not ready?" And Stevie J, he walked out smirking, duffel bag in hand, refusing to answer a single question. But the internet had already crowned him the unofficial prosecutor. Bambi, the queen of manipulation. Scrappy, the tragic pawn. And Mama D, the bishop ready to burn the board. The silence outside the courthouse wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence you feel before an earthquake hits. And everyone knew the real tremor was still coming. The next morning, the courthouse was quiet, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of eerie calm that wraps around a storm just before it tears the roof off. Paparazzi lined the steps, microphones ready, cameras buzzing. Scrappy arrived first, head low, hoodie pulled tight, the wedding ring that once gleamed proudly on his hand, now gone. No entourage. No smile, just the hollow stare of a man who realized his marriage might have been nothing more than a contract signed in lies. Inside, things were different. The air was heavier. There were new faces seated behind the prosecution bench, 2 men in dark suits. One woman with a thick binder pressed to her chest. Federal investigators. The whispers were right. This wasn't just messy reality TV drama anymore. The case had gone federal. The judge called the room to order. We will now proceed with evidence submitted in conjunction with federal investigators. A giant screen flickered on, and within seconds, the entire courtroom gasped. Bank statements, not just Bambi's, but joint accounts in her name and Scrappy's. Transfers in and out of a fake wellness brand called Glow Mommy Inc. Monthly deposits, sometimes as high as $20,000, traced back to shell companies. And then the kicker, one of those shell companies linked directly to Stevie J over. $80,000 funneled in less than 6 months. The murmurs were deafening. Scrappy's jaw clenched. Mama D clapped her hands once, loud, sarcastic. "Well, damn," she shouted, voice cutting through the chaos. "Y'all running scams and reality shows at the same time?" The judge slammed the gavel, but it was too late. The energy had shifted. The betrayal wasn't just emotional now, it was financial. Criminal Federal. Stevie sat there, unmoved, smirk on his lips, as if this had all been part of his master plan. Bambi, on the other hand, was pale, her eyes darting between the evidence and the cameras capturing her every reaction. And then, as if to add gasoline to an inferno, another video clip played. Grainy, shaky footage from what looked like a backroom studio. Bambi and Stevie J counting stacks of cash, laughing. Bambi's voice was crystal clear. VH1 paid for the show. Scrappy paid for the lifestyle. I just finessed the math. The courtroom erupted. Scrappy slumped forward, his hands gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles went white. The betrayal was no longer private. It was a public execution of everything he thought he had built. His lawyer rose to speak, but Scrappy beat him to it. He stood trembling, his voice breaking. "You ruined me. You ruined my family. You turned me into a joke." The silence that followed was suffocating. For the first time, Bambi's mask cracked. A single tear slipped down her cheek, but whether it was guilt or calculation, no one could tell. Stevie leaned back, arms crossed, smirking like the villain in a Betts thriller, and then came the shocker. Bambi's lawyer requested a sidebar, whispering frantically in her ear. When they returned, her attorney's voice rang out. "Your Honor, my client would like to change her plea." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. "To what?" The attorney swallowed hard. "No contest. In exchange for leniency and full cooperation with federal investigators." The entire courtroom froze. Scrappy's mouth fell open. Mama D screamed, "I knew IT." She flipped. Stevie's smirk faltered for the first time. And just like that, the game had changed. Bambi wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was turning state's evidence. By the afternoon, Federal investigators had 5 thick folders of screenshots, transaction logs, and email threads all handed over by Bambi. Messages between her and Stevie J, conversations with producers. One subject line that made jaws drop: "If this gets out, we're all effed." Mama D went live the second she stepped outside, screaming into her phone like a preacher at Sunday service. "I told y'all she was no good. And Stevie, don't make me release the voicemail. I got clips for days." Within minutes, her live had 75,000 viewers. Fans screen recorded every word, edits flooded TikTok. Hashtags hit Twitter. Hashtag Bambi SNITCHED. Hashtag Stevie Next. Hashtag Mama D for President. VH1 scrambled to release a statement. "We are conducting an internal review of past episodes and staff conduct. All cast members involved are suspended from future filming." Translation: panic mode. The show that built its empire on chaos was now choking on its own recipe. But the bombshells weren't over. Late that evening, TMZ dropped a leaked warrant. Federal agents were seizing assets tied to the Glow Mommy accounts, Bambi's Atlanta condo, a Range Rover registered under Stevie J's name, jewelry purchased on Scrappy's credit line, and the biggest shocker, $120,000, sitting in a Dubai-based crypto wallet flagged for fraud. Social media exploded. One viral tweet read, "This ain't love and hip-hop no more. This is love and federal time." Another: Bambi had Scrappy raising kids while she cashed Stevie's checks. Netflix dropped the doc. Celebrities couldn't resist. K. Michelle shaded with an IG story. Tables turn. Chairs flip. Keep the cameras rolling. Ray J commented under a viral post. Reality TV getting too real brew. But inside the courtroom, the betrayal cut even deeper. Bambi was now cooperating against everyone: Stevie J, Crypto Dave, even VH1 producers who allegedly looked the other way while fraud funded storylines. Stevie, for once, was rattled. His name circled in the documents. His face plastered next to financial charts. For the first time, the Chaos King looked like he might lose his crown. Scrappy, meanwhile, filed an emergency custody petition before the day was even over. His lawyer's press statement hit fake TMZ within hours. "Our client has been a victim of emotional, financial, and public abuse. We will pursue full custody, asset protection, and damages." Bambi's team clapped back with their own statement. "Ms. Bambi has endured years of gaslighting and neglect. Any recordings leaked without consent are under legal review." But fans weren't buying it. One tweet with 50,000 likes summed up the mood. "She went from Redor to Bonnie with no Clyde. Whole time, Stevie was the plug." And if that wasn't enough, a former friend of Bambi dropped screenshots of alleged bribe attempts. Bambi had apparently offered her $5,000 and a luxury wig to stay quiet. The friend took the cash, then exposed the receipts. Now, in addition to fraud and money laundering, prosecutors were eyeing witness tampering. The cracks were everywhere. Bambi sat in court the next day, makeup barely masking the exhaustion, as Scrappy walked in, flanked by his lawyers. The tension was suffocating. Mama D strutted behind him, phone in hand, live streaming 2000s. "Y'all thought I was crazy? Y'all thought Mama D was messy. Baby, I was telling the truth. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more insane." The judge announced, "We will now enter into evidence new surveillance footage obtained from federal investigators." The lights dimmed, the screen flickered, and suddenly, there they were, Bambi and Stevie J again. This time in an elevator, time-stamped 2 days before her jail booking. Laughing and whispering like conspirators. Scrappy shot to his feet, fists pounding the table. "You plotted against me in my OWN house." Deputies restrained him as the courtroom descended into chaos. Mama D shouted prayers. Stevie smirked like the devil himself. And Bambi buried her face in her hands. The judge's voice cut through the madness. "This case has expanded beyond family court. We are now coordinating with federal prosecutors to explore charges of conspiracy and fraud." Boom! The entire room went silent. This wasn't just scandal anymore. This was survival. And with Bambi flipping, Stevie smirking, and Scrappy unraveling, the question wasn't who would win. The question was who would go down first. The courthouse felt more like a movie set than a legal arena. Paparazzi shoved microphones in faces. Fans camped out with posters that read "Free Scrappy" and "Lock Bambi Up," while camera crews scrambled to capture every second of the chaos. Social media was already calling it the trial of the decade. But no one was ready for how this final act would play out. Bambi arrived in a tailored black suit. Hair slicked back, face blank. She wasn't walking in as a wife fighting for her family anymore. She was walking in as a woman trying to save herself. Right behind her were federal agents carrying thick folders, USB drives, and a laptop hooked up to the court's projector. Stevie J slid in 5 minutes later, designer shades covering his eyes, duffel bag in hand, smirk glued to his face. Scrappy came last, with Mama D on one arm, looking like she was about to testify at her own revival service. The judge opened with a bombshell. "We have entered into evidence 5 new folders of financial records and recordings provided by Ms. Bambi Richardson." Stevie's smirk faltered for the first time. The screen lit up with screenshots of email exchanges, transaction logs, and group texts that made jaws drop. One email, subject line: "Keep the storyline alive. The money is worth it." Recipients included Bambi, Stevie, and, shockingly, a VH1 producer. The courtroom gasped. This wasn't just betrayal. The judge's face went pale. Scrappy's fist slammed against the table so hard the wood shook. "You stole my life," he roared, deputies pinning him back in his seat. Bambi lowered her eyes, tears streaking her face. But her voice when she finally spoke was ice cold. "I did what I had to do to survive." Fans outside heard the news in real time thanks to reporters live tweeting the trial. Twitter exploded with hashtags. #StevieScam. #Bambi the Snake. #Justice for Scrappy. One viral TikTok spliced the recording with clips of Scrappy's old music videos. Captioned, "He rapped about loyalty while they plotted betrayal." Millions watched within hours. Inside the courtroom, the tension only escalated. The feds rolled out bank charts, tracing over $200,000 funneled through fake LLCs tied to Stevie and Bambi. Jewelry, condos, even international trips were flagged. Scrappy sat shaking his head, muttering, "I paid for all of it. I was the ATM." Then came the final nail. A video file pulled from Stevie J's laptop, seized under subpoena. The screen lit up. Bambi, sitting in a hotel room with Stevie, a glass of champagne in hand. "Scrappy's good for the storyline, but you're good for the money," she laughed. Stevie clinked glasses with her. "To the hustle." The courtroom erupted like an explosion. Mama D wailed, "Lord have mercy." Scrappy collapsed forward, sobbing uncontrollably. Deputies holding him steady. Stevie, cornered, finally stood up, shouting over the chaos, "Y'all think I'm the villain? Nah, Bambi set me up too." She dragged me in, then flipped when the heat came down. But the judge wasn't having it. "Mr. Jordan, you will remain seated or you'll be held in contempt." For the first time in years, Stevie looked powerless. The smirk that had carried him through every scandal evaporated. Bambi had burned the entire empire to save herself, and she wasn't done. Her lawyer rose. "Your Honor, my client is prepared to name additional collaborators in exchange for reduced sentencing." The courtroom froze. Who else was about to go down? The answer came quicker than anyone expected. A new set of screenshots hit the screen. Conversations between Bambi and an unnamed VH1 exec. "Keep the fraud low-key. We'll build it into the next season." Fans love mess. The courtroom gasped. Reality TV wasn't just messy, it was complicit. VH1 released a statement before the recess even ended. "We take these allegations seriously. All staff mentioned are suspended pending investigation." But fans weren't convinced. Twitter threads popped up dissecting old episodes, pointing out clues that storylines were built on fraud. We've been watching scams disguised as entertainment. One viral post said, "Love and hip-hop." More like love and hustle. Back inside, Scrappy broke his silence. Standing in the middle of the courtroom, tears streaming, voice cracking, he declared, "I loved her. I built with her, and she turned my life into a punchline." The room went silent. Even the judge paused, visibly shaken. But the cliffhanger was still coming, as court-wrapped federal agents filed one last warrant, unsealed in real time. It named Stevie J as a person of interest in conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering. Smirk was gone. Stevie's face went blank as whispers rippled through the courtroom. Mama D nearly fainted from excitement. "Lock him up," she screamed. Bambi, meanwhile, sat stone-faced. She had flipped, saved herself, and sacrificed everyone else. Stevie was cornered. Scrappy was broken. VH1 was exposed. And fans, they were eating every second of it like it was the Super Bowl by the time the gavel dropped. The internet had crowned its winners and losers. Scrappy, survivor. Bambi, snake. Stevie J, puppet master turned pawn. Mama D, prophet of the chaos. But as the courthouse emptied, a new headline hit TMZ. Federal agents investigating VH1 executives over alleged fraud cover-up in Bambi case. The scandal wasn't over. It was only expanding. And now the very network that made them stars was on the chopping block. The last image of the day was haunting. Scrappy walking out with Mama D at his side, tears streaking his face, while Stevie J was escorted by federal agents to a waiting black SUV. Bambi, shielded by her lawyers, slipped into the shadows. The empire they built on reality TV had crumbled into a courtroom apocalypse. And somewhere out there, fans whispered the only question left. If this was just the beginning, what would the end look like? And now, after everything we've just uncovered, the jail calls echoing in open court. Scrappy snapping like his whole soul had been ripped out. Stevie J caught smirking 1 minute and cornered the next. Bambi flipping faster than a page in a script and handing federal agents folders that could end careers. Here's the truth. This story is nowhere near finished. You think we've seen the final bombshell? Wrong. This is just the middle of the meltdown. And the ending could drag down not just Bambi, Stevie, and Scrappy, but an entire network built on betrayal. The streets are buzzing. The hashtags are trending and the leaks are getting hotter by the hour. Federal prosecutors aren't done. Mama D hasn't even dropped her voicemail receipts yet. And insiders are whispering that the next round of evidence could expose names we never expected, names that would shatter the entire love and hip-hop universe. So here's your warning. If you don't smash that like button right now, you might miss the moment this saga turns from messy to historic. If you don't drop your thoughts in the comments, your theory won't be part of the record when the truth finally explodes. And if you don't hit subscribe and ring that notification bell, you'll be left in the dark while everyone else is gasping at the next leak, the next betrayal, the next courtroom scream. This isn't gossip anymore, it's survival. Don't blink, don't scroll, don't look away. Hit like, comment your wildest theories. Subscribe now, because the next revelation, it could burn the whole empire down. Burn the whole empire down.